Welcome. I'm Michelle Bernard, and we're going to journal. We're going to release the old and bring in the new. We're releasing 2025. What a great year, I hope, in your heart and mind. And we're going to move into 2026 with an open heart and with a creative mind together through our journaling. This intimate interview for 2026, I want you to get a journal or something that you can write on. I use a couple different journals where I write and release the old, bring in the new. I like to save them actually in my date book so that I can always look back at them during the year. Also, you can use the link and download this intimate interview that I'll be posting to the side so that you have your own My Intimate Interview for 2026. And you can work on some of these conversation starters on your own if there's not enough time during this session to finish. Get a pen, use your stylus and your iPad if you'd like, and we'll get started. I'd like you to take a breath with me. Inhale and exhale. And we'll take a look at the first conversation starter. List 3 things you've learned about yourself in 2025. You can begin writing. 3 things you've learned about yourself in 2025. So as you begin, I'd like you to understand that you can write in bullets. Just put bullets and list. I like to use stars sometimes when I list. You can see my stars. You can write any way that you'd like, any style that you'd like. Take another 30 seconds or so to finish. And if you don't finish, you can come back to it. All right, let's look here at the next. I have it to the side, so I'm reading my screen. List 3 people who've supported or encouraged you in 2025. 3 people who've encouraged you, supported you. They've said something positive to you. They've been there when you needed someone to talk to. They've helped you carry out a goal or a mission, even if it's something simple. They've taken you to the airport, anything. I have a friend who constantly says, she's busy, and I call or text her. I text her, and she's busy. She'll say she's busy, and she'll say, but if it's really important, I can call you right now. Do you need that? She says that to me. And I say, no, I don't right now. I don't. That is a special person. That's a special person. If I did need that. It's really small things. I'm smiling to think about these little small things that people have done for me throughout 2025 that really mattered. So I wrote on my journal a little bit about what they did, and that's why I'm smiling. We're going to move on. List 3. Things, ideas, or behaviors you're releasing in 2026 and why. And this is sort of an intense one, I'd say. Even people you might be releasing. 3 things, ideas, or behaviors you're not taking with you into 2026. So even if it is people, which is, it's very harsh, probably, sometimes, maybe in the state of the relationship, you're not taking it with you. It might not be that you're not taking that person, but in the state of the relationship. So you might say my relationship as it is with, because it could change. People might change. You might change. But I'd like you to write with conviction, people, experiences that you don't want to relive, things, ideas. I've written this list. I'm looking over what I've written while you're writing. And I hesitate to share what I've written. And I always caution people when I teach journaling that they don't need to share. You don't need it validated. And when it's taken out of context, what you've written, you look like a certain kind of person, especially something like this. So don't take it out of context. Don't share it because it's out of context. Some of you know what I'm talking about. It's okay for you to know what it means. We're going to move on. As I said earlier, you can download this intimate interview for 2026. You can also write the prompt when you see it there, and then, I call them conversation starters, and then answer it so that it's in your journal. All right, I love this next one. And it's a reflection. You're going to make a list of 5 to 10 aims, goals, or experiences that gave you a feeling of accomplishment in 2025, last year. 5 to 10 accomplishments. What did you finish? What are you proud of? What did you see? What gave you joy? 5 to 10. You can list them as you choose in any style. Sometimes I do bubble letters. You can do whatever you want, what makes you feel good. 5 to 10. I want you to think about anything for this list. It could be something that you did financially that you're proud of. You might have started a retirement fund. It could be that you produced something that was important. It could be that you performed in something. It could be that you finished reading a certain number of books. It could be that you traveled with your family or you traveled on your own and you're really proud of that. It could be that you did something you've been afraid to do, or that you signed up for something that you were afraid to sign up for. We're moving on. I want you to take a breath. Exhale. Describe 3 aims, goals, or experiences you want to have in 2026. Now, when I do this on my own, I write a list that is very, 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 very long. And I don't care if I don't achieve all of them. And I do this every year. I write a list that is long because I want every cell of my being to know who I am and what I'm willing to receive. So I don't care if all of those things don't happen in that year. What I have noticed doing this year upon year upon year is I wrote something in 2008 that happened to me in 2020. I wrote something in 2008 that happened to me in 2012. I do this all the time. I do it twice a year, top of the year, and my birthday, which happens to be in July. I do it all the time. There is this awareness that you place in your life, in your behaviors, in your mind, in your processing, in your choices. By being aware of what you're aiming for, you usually hit it one day. So I'm only asking you for 3, but if you want, write a list. Let's go. Some things you consider once again: books you want to read, places you want to travel, skills you want to pick up, or hobbies you want to take on, like knitting or pottery or learning to play chess. Journaling regularly might be one. Learning a language, making new friends, some sort of a travel, some sort of a family group activity that you want to plan. I'm a wellness trainer. I've been teaching people to get stronger, to live healthy, and maybe that's what you want to do this year. And if you're already have a practice, a wellness practice, maybe it's something specific, like you want to do pull-ups, or you want a certain amount of push-ups, or get your abs tighter, or reduce meat. So think about all these things that you're really curious about and you want to pursue. You can write down 3 or more. We're going to take another 30 seconds. Remember, you can come back. Moving on. For my mental health in 2026, I will. Will you go to bed earlier? Wake up earlier? Will you limit social media or screen time? Will you sit in silence, meditate? Will you go for walks after dinner? Will you get sunlight first thing in the morning for your mental health? Will you complain less? Ruminate about problems less? Will you talk about the past less? Will you hang out with your positive friends? Will you take a shower after work or a bath? And now moving on, for my physical health, in 2026, I will. Talked about this already. Will you work out an extra day? So instead of 3 days a week, 4. I always recommend 4 to 6 as a trainer. Will you walk after dinner? Will you take a new class for exercise? Thinking about food, will you reduce soda? Will you have your last meal 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed? Some things to think about for your physical health. Will you stretch before bed? A couple years ago, I spent time in Japan, and most of the furniture is very low to the ground, and they rarely have any knee problems or back problems. I've seen many TED Talks about this too. So I recently put my bed on the floor, and most of my furniture is very low, so I have to get off the floor a lot, and I have to sit low. And I'm 57 years old, and my knees have gotten so much more flexible from doing that. And I feel like I've dialed back time on my knees. I'm so grateful. All right. Every year with my clients, I write down their word for the year, and I remind them of what it is, what it was. And I used to do it when I taught classes in New York City. I would have everyone announce their word for the year, and I had a class where I had about 15 people, so we could do it out loud. Otherwise, in large groups, very large groups, I couldn't really do that, but I would have them come up with a word for the year. I do 3 words, but I only announce one of them. And my clients all have to give me their word for the year. They can do 3 like me, but they don't have to tell me the other 2. Those are private. And then we live those words, whatever that is, that one word or several. So last year, my word for 2025 was focus. And I had 2 others. And I journal throughout the year how I am demonstrating that word. And focus was certainly demonstrated last year. And I'm so happy about that. So I want you to think about your word for 2025. If you didn't have one, what do you think it was? I mean, how did you experience last year if you could sum it up in a word? Go ahead and think about that, write that down. And I experienced it this way. So the word, how you experienced it, or it probably would have been this word because I demonstrated this. Go ahead and write. I love this part. I always tell my clients, and even if they're young children, they're over the age of 11, focus is the F word. It's my F word, focus. And I use it all the time, especially with children. Focus. All right, here we go. My word for 2026 is, I want you to think about it. The word pops into your mind. It pops into your being. You've already been approaching that word at the end of the year. So it usually is there. It doesn't take long. Just, it's there. We're not sure if that's the word. That's why I say sometimes do 3. And sometimes if you find a word, you're like, it's not that word. One of my clients once said resilience. And then she thought about it for about half an hour and she said, Michelle, it's not resilience, it's power. She said, resilience makes me feel, that's what she said, resilience makes me feel like I have to fight and be resilient. And she said, actually, it's power. And I said, very, very good. Whatever you choose, it's very good. But she got it. It was like, no, it's not resilience, it's power. So I'm going to give you a few words so that your mind can have something to choose from. Abundant, fortunate, powerful. Expansion, creative, connection, adventurous, adventure, calm, freedom, clear, deepening, wisdom, transformation, joy, persistence, productive, courageous, deliberate, faithful, secure, daring. Hopefully those words sent you out there and you found one in the bubble. Write it down and describe how you'd like to experience your word. Anything that comes to mind, because anything could happen. My word for 2026 is love. This is the year that I focus on forgiveness. When I journal about forgiveness and love, there are maybe, in reality, 3 to 4 people that I've had a hard time forgiving. Deeply, honestly, no matter what I tell someone, I've had a hard time forgiving. And this year, I'm focusing on forgiving them. Also, it's rolled into 2026. Like I said, these words are kind of there at the end of the year, and they kind of move you into the next year. Part of my word love is appreciating everything. And that's what I was sort of seeing all through last year is I regret no part of my life. Even the hard stuff, I regret none of it. I appreciate all of it. And I'm going to use that to journal as I move into 2026. Love. And then I've got 2 other words here, but they're private. And I'm going to journal about those throughout the year also. I am so happy that you sat to journal with me and bring in the new year with me together, with us, really. I'm Michelle Bernard. I'm a wellness educator and a multidimensional artist. Please check the links below where you can find some of this wellness training, my books, and also my art and writing. I really appreciate you, and Happy New Year. If I hold that up too long, we're going to get some balloons. Let's see. We're going to get some balloons? We're going to get some balloons? Oh, maybe not. That's on my Zoom. Anyway. I'm so glad that you spent this time with me. Happy New Year.